Good morning and welcome to the Daily Light Devotion. I hope all of you had a wonderful Saturday and looking forward to today, that is the 10th of August. Today, we're going to look at Acts chapter 16, verses 35 to 40, and we're looking at honoring the gospel with boldness. So, after the miraculous events in the prison, Paul and Silas were asked to leave quietly. But Paul, knowing his right as a Roman citizen, refused to be dismissed in secrecy after an unlawful beating and imprisonment. So the final act of this chapter, chapter 16, shows the boldness and wisdom are necessary to protect the integrity of the gospel and ensure the mission continues without shame. Verse 35 says, And when it was day, the magistrate sent the officer saying, Let them men go. After realizing the prisoners hadn't failed and the situation was under control, the officials decided to release Paul and Silas. But they didn't want to go quietly. And the world often wants to silence the truth, right? But the gospel will not be swept under a rug, especially with injustice is involved, right? And this is true for today also. We need to stand for the truth. Verse 36. So the keeper of the prison reportedly those words to Paul, saying, The magistrates have sent to let you go. Now, therefore, depart and go in peace. So the jailer, now a brother in Christ, relayed the message. He likely wanted to protect Paul and Silas from further trouble too. Even well-meaning people may not understand God's bigger strategy, right? Sometimes peace comes not from walking away, but standing firm in midst of challenges that we face. Verse 37 says, But Paul said to them, They have beaten us openly, condemned Romans, and now they put us out secretly. No, indeed, let them come themselves and get us out. So Paul knew his rights and refused to let the authorities quietly cover up their wrongdoing. And his demand wasn't pride, it was a stand of righteousness and protection for future gospel workers. So boldness can protect the mission, right? Paul and Silas knew it was all about the truth. It was not about them, right? It was not about them getting beaten, but for the future that people cannot get away by wrongdoing when the message of God is going forward. Verse 30 it says, and the officers told these words to the magistrate, and they were afraid when they heard that they were wrong. They were Romans. The authorities were fearful because they had broken a Roman law by punishing citizens without trial, right? Paul's boldness now gave the gospel credibility and showed that believers were not weak or lawless, which is important for us to understand. When God gives us a legal or social standing, we need to use it wisely for His glory. And that's what Paul did here. You know, the respect for the gospel can increase when believers walk in wisdom and courage. And Paul completely displayed this here. Verses 39 and 40, then they came and pleaded with them and brought them out. So they went out of the prison and entered the house of Lydia. And when they had seen the brethren, they encouraged themselves and departed. So Paul and Silas did not stir up strife. They used their boldness to protect the church and encourage new believers before moving on. Their exit was one of strength, not of shame. So that is very important for us. We don't compromise, right? But when we are on the right and we are standing for God, God doesn't want us to compromise to the worldly systems, right? But stand firm and also seek God and see how God leads them. And so that's how God led Paul and Silas, and so that the church would be protected, and the message of the gospel in the future would be protected, right? So grace and truth go hand in hand, right? When we leave every place stronger than we found it, people are encouraged, protected, and blessed. So, what are some of the life applications? We need to be courageous in injustice. We don't need to be afraid to stand for the truth, especially when it protects others, right? It's not about us. We need to use the voice of for good. God may have placed us in a position of influence to demand, to defend what is right. We need to encourage the church before we move on. So always we need to leave behind strength and unity wherever we serve. And finally, let the wisdom guide us to our boldness. We need to be strategic, not reactionary, in how we need to speak up and stand firm. So, our encouraging God doesn't only want us to endure suffering, He calls us to stand for injustice, wisdom, and grace. Paul, like Paul, we can be bold without being bitter, right? In every situation, our goal is to protect the gospel's integrity, strengthen the believers, and honor God. That's what we learned from these verses. I hope you had this encourages you, and have a blessed Sunday, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.